Hello there. Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Lena with Especially Made for Me. I am going to be showing you today how to make your own wreath form. And I'm sorry about this. Let me make sure I turn that off. So I'm going to be showing you how to make your own wreath today, wreath form rather. Normally and again, this is Lena. Hello. Especially made for me. Normally we can get our own wreath forms to make our wreaths. They come with the stems already on there, so it makes it easier to do our wreaths, or quicker rather. But these are a little bit more, cost a little bit more. So I wanted to show you a way that you can make your own without spending so much. Hi, Miss Magua. So I'm going to show you again just how to make your own wreath form. So these are normally, unless you have a vendor that you can buy some at wholesale, or if you have a lot of coupons and you find them at discount, you could pay on average about $6 to $7 just for one of these. So that is why I wanted to take the time and show you how you can set up the form yourself and not spend so much money. You could actually use some items from the Dollar Tree. So these are some wreath forms that you can get at the Dollar Tree. It still has the tags, so you'll be able to see. And these are just $1, and they're 14 inches, which is basically the same thing as you would get from the store. Normally they're 14 to 16 inches. But once you put your wreath form to work and you do the mesh, it looks even bigger than the one that you can get for all the extra money. So $1 at the Dollar Tree. They also have the minis, and these come at as a set of two for $1. So it actually saves you quite a bit when you're doing your own wreath forms to do it that way. And then all you would need is to do some chenille stems. The color would vary depending on the wreath that you're going to be making, so you try to match that as much as you can. So these are also available at the dollar store. You could get a pack for $1, and you'll have plenty in there to do what you need, because we only need 18 of the stems or pipe cleaners to do a wreath. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of different ways, a couple of different methods on setting it up, so that you can see what I do when I'm making them, because again, it's much easier to set your own to save a little bit of money. And I'll show you on both ways. I have a couple of ways that I set it up. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I just cut the tag out just so that we don't have that in our way. That's all I'm doing. Okay. And I'm gonna change the camera just so I can make sure I zoom in a little bit, so you'll be able to see better what I'm doing with my hands down here. So just bear with me for a second. There we go. Hope you can see me still on the top corner. Okay, so these are the wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. And we're gonna use, you can also use the same stems or pipe cleaners from there. And again, the colors would be based on what you're making. Like if you're making a harvest pipe wreath, then of course you will want to match your stems to kind of have those same colors. If you're gonna be doing 4th of July, maybe do red, white, or blue, or a mixture thereof, that type of thing. So it really doesn't matter, other than to make sure it matches with your theme. Okay, I'm gonna move this one out of the way since we don't need it. All right, make sure those don't fall. Okay, so rule of thumb is that you need 18 stems. Normally we would do 10 outer, 8 inner, and this is what I mean by that. So we never use that outer rim. If you can see that outer rim of the form, the metal form, we don't use. Normally that we use to hang it on the hook, or if we need to, depending on how thick our wreath is, if we need to actually do something, put a loop of some sort or some wiring to be able to hang it, we use that outer rim. So we don't actually put any mesh or chenille stems on that outer rim. So what we would do is actually use the inner, which is the one all the way in the middle on the inside, and we'll use the other two here depending on the method that we're using. So usually just these three, and depending on the method, which you'll see on some other videos, you may use just the two middle ones, or you'll use the second one from the outside and the inner from the inside. So I'm going to show you those methods now on how to get everything set up. So I know I'm going to be using some purple here soon because I have a project in mind. So I'm going to do some purple stems. Now on this method, we're going to actually use the full pipe cleaner. In some other methods, we could also cut them in half. Now you could just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exactly in the middle, but the more even you can get it, the better, because that way you'll have enough to go around for your mesh or your ribbons or your embellishments that you're going to be putting on there. So you can start either on your inner or again on that second rim based on your choice. The key is to do the 10 on that second rim from the outside and do 8 on the inner rim. Okay, so I'm going to start with the inner rim. And what I like doing, just because it makes it stay a little bit more without having to use the glue gun, is to use the crossbars if I can. Now this is what we mean by crossbars, is these things here. Let me stand it up a little bit here. Okay, so this here is a crossbar. So when we use these, we know that our stems or pipe cleaners are not going to move because it's right on there, doesn't slide either way. Some like using the like a little bit of glue. That's why I always have my glue gun out. This one is actually my Ryobi one. It's wireless. It doesn't have any cord actually. So I like having that because I don't have to worry about the cord. And I do have the affiliate link on the bottom if you're interested in getting that. But you can use a little bit of the glue to keep them in place if you want to just skip whichever way and not have to worry about using crossbars. A couple of different things to do here. So I'm going to start actually with that second rim because I do like using the crossbars because that's less thing for me to have to think about. And all I do is put that metal on that crossbar there, like so. And we're just going to move the stems in opposite directions, pull to tighten, and then we give it a twist. So now we have one stem already there. Another rule of thumb you can use, normally we do about 4 inches apart. So you could actually measure 4 inches, or you could actually use the stem. It's a little bit longer, so you know you have to go a little bit less than that. It's entirely up to you. You can eyeball it, or you can use, if you have one of these boards, you can use that to kind of guide you as to where to put the next one, which usually would mean that it's not going to be on that crossbar. So I'm going to go on to the next one. Again, just about 4 inches away from the other. When there's not a crossbar, this is my tip here. You could either use the glue gun, and I'll go ahead and start warming it up just so I can show you how that will be done on the, maybe in the next couple. Or you can do this trick. So what I do is those two inner rims that I mentioned, they're not all the way on the inside, but the middle two, you're gonna run that stem, the pipe cleaner, through both of those. And you're going to pull out to make sure that they're still as even as possible, because you're actually going to make sure that it's tight on that second rim. You're not going to that one closer to the inner rim. You're going more to the outer because that's where our initial one is. Okay, so we're going to do that, and this is basically how I do that. Same thing, pull them apart as tight as possible, and then give it a twist. Go all the way around. That makes it not want to slide, which is usually what happens when you just put it on the one rim, because there's nothing stopping it from moving it. But this gives it a little bit more of restriction doing the two rims. And I'll put it against my apron, maybe you can see it a little bit better. See, I'm using the two rims doing that, and then tightening it and twisting it. That keeps it from moving. Okay, the other thing to do would be to use a little bit of glue. If you just want to use that one rim, you could use a little bit of glue. What I like doing if I do that is making sure that I don't use it the same day, maybe wait a day or two just to let it all sit. just to make sure that everything's per se cured. And then you'll know that once you add in the mesh, your ribbons, your embellishments, it's not going to go anywhere. But I like using the two rims together a lot more because I don't have to worry about also using glue. It just saves me a little bit of time. So again, just about 4 inches apart, and you can use the board if you have one. If not, again, there's an affiliate link on there that you can pick from, or you can eyeball it, just kind of looking at the distance and doing it that way. So I'm going to go again until we have enough glue so I can show you that part. I think my battery ran out. So before it actually cools off, I'm going to show you by the one rim. So about 4 inches. I'm going to use the one rim just so I can show you with the glue what I do before it completely cools. And it's just a little drop right on the rim where you know the actual chenille stem pipe cleaner is going to cross. And we're going to do the same thing. We are going to pull one side to the next, or the other rather, so it'll be nice and tight. And we're still going to give it that twist. But the key here will be to not move it, let it cure, so that way it won't move on you when you start putting the mesh ribbons and embellishments. Another reason why I like the other method better, because I don't have to wait. If I need to make a wreath right away, I can go ahead and get it done instead of having to wait if I don't have any other wreath forms ready for me to use, especially if I need to take care of an order. Okay, again, eyeballing it. Doesn't have to be exact. Using the two middle rims, just basically pulling apart so I can make sure they're about even. And then pulling one side to the other, just kind of pulling apart, opposite directions, and then I'm giving it a twist to make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm doing that on that second rim, so that way it'll line up with the one that we used at the crossbar. Excuse me. Okay, we're going to do that all the way around, about 4 inches apart. Ooh, thought of an awesome name for my crafts group. Awesome! I want to know. Want to share? Or are you going to tell me, just message me and share? Okay, eyeballing again. I thought you were going to be getting some sleep. Okay. So there we go. We're up to 5. So you've got 8, 9, and 10. That way we know we can make sure we do our 10. Again, 10 on the outer, the larger rim. And we're going to do 8 on the inner, which is smaller, that inner rim. So again, eyeballing. And again, you can measure. Use your board if you have it, or use a measuring tape. Either way works. It's only about 4 inches. You can definitely eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay, and again, I'm just putting it between those two, making sure I grab both rims, second and third, and then I'm pulling tight and twisting to make sure it stays in place. Oh, I got the gifts, and I like that. Okay, again, 4 inches. I'm going to try to lift it up this time so you can see a little bit better. We're just eyeballing 4 inches, and I'm running the chenille stem through that second and third rim, 4 inches away. Okay, and what I'm doing is making sure that I twist it towards that second rim from the outside. So that is where that twist is going. So we're pulling apart, and then we're twisting to make sure it stays on nice and tight. Okay, so That was looking kind of small, so I wanted to make sure I didn't do it too small. Again, just using those two inner rims, pulling the stem. I think I just went through one this time. You try that again. Getting sidetracked. Okay, pull in opposite directions so that will be nice and tight, and then give it a twist. Okay, so we're already up to 8, so we can see very easily that we are going to make it to our 10 doing it that way. Okay, doing it again. Let's see, trying to lift it so you can see it a little bit better. I think with the mat you're not able to see it as well, so I want to make sure I put it against. There we go. So again, second and third rim, and we're gonna pull and twist on that second one from the outside, nice and tight. We're gonna pull them apart in opposite directions and then give it. Thank you. I know I am. I hope everybody is as well, just like you, Miss Magua. Not everybody puts comments on, so we never know. I'm not looking at the numbers, so I don't know if anybody else is watching. Hopefully they are, or they may have saved it as a reminder to watch later. Okay, so here we have our 10 for the outer, and now we're going to go to the inner. Now for the inner, to make sure that your wreaths are nice and full, the key to that is to make sure that the one that you put on your inner rim is in between the two from your outer or your middle rim. So what in this case, what that means is, since we have two here, these two, we're going to make sure for that inner rim we're going to put it in between them, okay, for measurements. Now we don't have to think about measurement, we're just going to go right in between. Okay, and since it's smaller, you would think it will be an even number in relation if you do like math and all of that, but that's what we say. We only need 8. It's actually 2 less, just because of the sizing. The sizing of it makes a difference. Now in this case, it looks like the middle is almost right on that crossbar, so I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that, just because I know that way it'll stay put. And we're just going right in between that inner rim, and we're going to catch that crossbar. But we're doing the same thing, so I'm going to lift up here so you can see. We're just going right into that inner rim, which is the very inner rim, using that crossbar, but we're still doing the same thing. We're going to pull these apart, so I'm going to just move my fingers a little bit slower so you can see what I'm doing. See how they're going in opposite direction, and all you're doing is just pulling from there to make sure it's tight. Once you know it's nice and tight, it's when you do that twist, and that keeps it in place. Okay, and it might go down, it might go up, and that's okay, but it's not going to go, since it's on that crossbar. See, it's not going to move on you sideways where you're trying to put the mesh and moving out of position. Okay, when we don't have a crossbar, we want to make sure that we're still right in the middle. We're going to do the same thing we did on the outer, but we're going to face it in the opposite direction, because now we want to be on that inner rim for when we put our mesh. So same thing, pulling apart to tighten, and then we're going to twist. How are we doing out there? I know Miss Magwa's sleepy. I'm kind of sleepy myself. But this kind of wakes me up for a little bit. While you're here, if you haven't already, please do give me thumbs up on the video, the tutorial. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Share with your friends, family. Let them know about these videos, the tutorials. I do also have things on doing natural things. So I'll be adding more on that as well. Haven't done any of those for a little bit. Have another crossbar, woohoo! Okay, same thing, pulling in opposite direction to make sure it's tight, and then giving it a twist. With no crossbar, we're using the 2 rims. Still going in between for measurement's sake, in between the other 2 that we just placed on that outer. And when I say outer, it's not necessarily all the way on the outside, but with the 2 rims that we have on the inside of that, in between. Okay, get a little confusing, so that's why I kind of repeat myself just in case. There may be somebody that's joined us after I've said it before, so I like making sure that we share the information. Again, just about 4 inches apart is the way that the other ones are set up, the first ones. And we're just going in between those for our inner rim, just to make sure that it's about the same distance and that they're overlapping, because that's what makes the wreath, what helps the wreaths be more full. Okay, again, using the 2 rims, and this is again just so that we don't have to use glue, but you can definitely use glue in between before you twist, excuse me, and that way they won't move on you when you start building your wreath. But I suggest letting it cure for about a day or so, just to make sure that glue is nice and dry and it's been on that chenille stem to make sure it doesn't move on you. So if you make them on a regular basis, or if you do them for orders like I do, you may like using this method instead, so that way you don't have to wait. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 6, 8. Our last one. Okay, same thing. Just pulling in opposite directions so it'll be nice and tight, and giving it that twist. So when we're done, basically it looks like this. Doesn't look so pretty, but basically again it does the same concept as having this, but this is $7, $1, and maybe a few pennies, since we did not use the full bag of the chenille stems, because these are also $1 at the Dollar Tree. So less than $2, $7. So that's why I want to make sure I show you that option, because it does help with cost, not only when we're on a budget, but also because when you make them for selling, then you can, maybe your pricing doesn't have to be as high, because then you're not having to charge as much. Okay, now with mixing colors, same concept. But if you know you're going to be using different colors for a wreath, you could also use different chenille stems depending on the embellishments you're going to be using. So you could either alternate them, so you'll have one color all the way around on your middle rims and a different color on your inner, or you can alternate it in both, so that way you can have those colors show throughout, again depending on your theme. So that's why I have them pretty much in every color. And I was going to actually show you how it would work with the glue, but I did show you on that one that we did. Just wanted to kind of have that option available and show you that you could also do mixture of pipe cleaners depending on what you're making, especially if you're doing something with like rainbow colors or spring, summer, and you want to mix and match colors. There's nothing wrong with mixing and matching your stems as well, because sometimes you may have just a few of each color. It may not be a full 18 to make one full wreath with just the one color, but nothing wrong with doing both. So the mini wreath, I call these the mini wreaths. I do mini wreaths and I do mom's wreath. And the difference between the two, just so that you would know, the mini wreath I use, it's very small. Like the mesh that I use is 5 inches. You know, we have the 5-inch, the 10-inch, the 21-inch. We also have a 12 and 12.5, but the more popular are the 10-inch, the 21-inch. So with, now use the 5-inch, the size of the wreath, even after it's done, it's very small. And I think, let's see, do I have that one over here? I think I've already sold that one. Nope. Here's another one. Very cute and small, very petite. Normally they're used like at assisted living facilities, nursing home facilities, or you know, for dorms and things like that, because they're very small. This is only about 8 inches. So with the actual 5-inch mesh, and these are curls, I use curls to make this one, it's only 10 inches. So it goes up a couple of inches or so when you use just the 5-inch mesh. When you use the 10-inch, of course, it's a little bit bigger, more rounded, and it goes out a little bit longer. That's the ones that I call mums type wreaths, and you could do multicolor like I did this one with red, white, and blue for the you know, patriotic look. But you could do them all in one color or similar colors, so that would look like the mums, and that's why I have those two names. The concept on putting the chenille stems, which is what I'm showing you today, is the same, but this one is smaller. So what I suggest in these, again, I'm continuing with purple because I have some projects coming up and I'm going to be using some purple. I do start again with a crossbar. Now these only have 3 rims versus the 4 that the 14-inch has. Okay. We don't use the outer, same thing like with the 14-inch. We're only going to use that inner and the middle. Just like with the 14, we use the inner and the 2 middle. Okay. So we're going to go to that crossbar to our middle. You're just going to go across, in and out, just like so. Hold it a little bit that way. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull in opposite direction and twist, and that's going to hold it in place. Okay, now with these, you could also cut them in half, depending again on how much you're going to be building on top of it for your base. And that, by that I mean with the mesh, if you're going to be going more than once, or if you're going to be doing curls or doing the ruffles, and I have those methods already on other videos, may have to check those out. Excuse me. So depending on that, you may want to cut them in half. I'm leaving them full because my project might change. I do know for sure we're going to have some purple. Purple. So I'm going right now just on those crossbars. Okay. And now what I'm going to do, because again, same concept, it's about 4 inches, but I always go one less, so about 3 inches. And we're going to use that same method I used on the 14-inch. We're going to go ahead and use 2 rims instead of having to use the glue, but pulling apart and twisting. Okay, and I can check my eyes, almost right on it. Okay, gonna do that again, and I think no, I'll still do it. Okay, so about 3 inches, 2.5 to 3 inches apart, since this is a mini wreath. And all I'm doing is going from the inner, catching that middle, and I'm going to twist. Okay, now this is usually for when you're going to be using the ruffle method or the poof method, or crisscross method for that matter, which is also on another video. If you're going to be doing like what I showed you earlier, there's a whole other process for that, because you normally have to make bundles, and I do have the video for that as well. So I'm just showing you the quick, easy way to make you a wreath form to replace the ones from the stores that already have the stems on it. Okay, again, just using the 2 rims, pulling the stems or pipe cleaners in opposite direction, and then doing a twist. And we're going to do that all the way around. And then we'll do that also on the inner. The difference again will be that we will go in between where those other ones are to put our inner ones. Okay, and again about 2 inches to 3 inches apart, depending again on the theme that you're working on. You could always count them out if you need your numbers to be even. But when you're doing a poof method, really not much of a necessity for that to be even as far as the number goes, unless you're trying to match your ribbons a certain way. Okay, outer is done with the middle, not all the way out. So now we're going to be doing the inner, which is the one that's all the way on the inside, and we're going to go in between. So wherever these are for the other rim, we want to put one on the inside right in between it, so that way again it'll be nice and full when you start putting your mesh in. So this time, instead of pulling out with it, we're going to go in. Okay, and don't worry, I'll do that again so you can see it. Another way to do the twist, if you hold the chenille stems, you could just grab them both and then do a twist. Just make sure that it's nice and tight. Okay, and if you decide you want these to be shorter before you start putting your mesh on, you can definitely cut them after. If you decide once you start doing it, it's like, you know, that's getting in my way, I don't like it this way, you can definitely cut it afterwards. You can start doing it the long way until you know for certain, and then once you've gotten your way that you prefer to do it, then you'll know you can cut them beforehand. Okay, again for the twisting, we're going right in between the other 2, and we're just grabbing and twisting. Okay, now this same method that I'm using for the chenille stems to be on here to make your wreath forms, you can use on any size wreath form. Key is to keep it for the bigger ones about 4 inches apart, and of course the bigger your form, you want to maybe add about 1 inch or 2. You can kind of base it on the size difference. Just giving it a twist, it'll be nice and tight. Looks like we have 2 more to go. We're just going right in between the others, so that lets us know how many more. So it's not that I'm counting, I'm just eyeballing what we have left. Now you could do the math method if you like doing math. Just like on the 14-inch, we had 10 on the outside, 8 on the inside. Sometimes we have 9 on the inside. You can just subtract it based on the size. Since we're going 1 inch to 2 inches less for the inner, you could do 8 on the outer and do 6 on the inner, or 7, again based on your preference. So there's our mini wreath set up for using the poof method or the ruffle method, just like we have for the 14-inch. And again, this is all with the Dollar Tree supplies. These come in 2 for $1, these smaller bases, the forms. So that's a big saving there. If you get these with the stems on it, they're about the same price of the 14-inch ones, believe it or not, with the actual stems. And they have them in different shapes. You know, I'm not talking about these that already have the stems attached to it. So yes, it's nice and fluffy, but it's a little bit more costly. Let's see. I have multiple compliments on the door wreath you made. Aww, Cash and Merle. Aww, I'm so glad. That makes my heart happy. Let them know they can go on the Etsy shop and put in an order. I'll be glad to take care of them. All right, so there you have it. Just a mini wreath in a 14-inch, and again, you could do even bigger. This is just to do a little bit of savings. Again, it's about $7 for the wreath forms that already have the stems attached. And doing it this way, it's only about $2, less than $2 actually, because the form is $1 at the Dollar Tree, and you can get a package of the stems for $1. And there's usually 45 or 50, I think 45 on each one. Let me read the number. Yes, 45 on each one, and you only need about 18 if you're doing the 14-inch one, and you're gonna need even less for the smaller one. So it is very helpful, cost effective, and that way you don't have to spend a lot of money. Cute. Aww. Yes, Cash and Merle sleep here. I do remember that. And it's got the little puppies on the sign. And that's another thing, if you're interested in those. I do the signs, but I don't always put signs on the wreaths. It depends, you know, I always think about the safety issue. If you're going to put it on the front door, you know, we have that magic eye usually on that door. You want to be able to see outside. So I have both options just for that reason. So I'm so glad that you like it, Miss Magua. Okay, so let me know if any questions on how to make these. You can use the same concept if you're going to use a cross or a candy cane. Any kind of wreath form you could actually do the same thing with. Again, just keep that rule or guideline in mind, about 4 inches apart, and then you put your stems on, and that way you can save yourself a little bit of dough by making your own wreath forms. I'm going to change the camera view here. Hello there. Okay, so I'm going to hold these up again so you can tell the difference. 14-inch, 8-inch, again less than $2, about $1 for that, instead of paying, you know, $7 or so for a wreath form. And then you just use your mesh, and Dollar Tree also has mesh, so you could definitely make a wreath very inexpensively if you're just making something for yourself or home for a centerpiece or something like that. So if any questions, please do leave a comment question. I always come back to the videos. See another comment coming up. Ah, thank you, Miss Magua. We'll see you again next week. We always try to be here at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, so please do join us. And like Miss Magua said, if you're interested on any of the wreaths or the swags or any of the natural things that I've made, or if you want to just look at the videos from before, you can look here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and just review those videos. You can go also to my Etsy shop if you want to look at some of the items that have already been made live and other items, and I do have those links beneath on the video. But thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you stay safe and you have a wonderful night. Stay liquid. Until next week. Bye-bye.